I need you to step aside for a moment, sir. We're checking all jackets tonight.
I understand, but I'm late for the show. Is there a problem with my entry?
I need to verify your credentials before you enter, Expanded Sir.
Of course, officer. My name is on the list, and I have my ID right here.
Pressing around him. A hand landed on his shoulder, firm, deliberate. "Step aside, sir," the officer said, voice flat, tone not questioning, but commanding. Malik froze. The man in uniform had the kind of eyes that measured worth in seconds, eyes that had already decided he didn't belong. I have a ticket," Malik stammered, lifting the stub for proof. The officer's gaze skimmed it, eyes narrowing. "Not you. Wait over there." He gestured toward a roped-off corner, isolating Malik like a specimen. Whispers swirled. Phones hovered, recording, but no one moved to intervene. Malik's chest tightened, pulse racing, fury simmering. "This isn't happening. Not now. You don't understand," he said, voice low but steady. "I'm performing tonight." The officer laughed, sharp, dismissive. "Yeah, right. You. Step aside." Time constricted. The roar of the crowd inside felt like mockery, a heartbeat he was being barred from joining. Malik's ticket burned against his palm, the world narrowing to the cruel set of the officer's jaw. He caught a flash of the stage through the entrance, lights, instruments, the life he built, but just out of reach. The officer's hand stayed firm on his shoulder, unyielding. Malik's stomach sank. He has no idea who I am. No idea what this night means. And then the officer smirked, leaning closer, his voice a whisper edged with authority. "I said wait, or else." Malik's breath caught. One step could ruin everything. One false move, and the night, his career, his dignity, all hung on the precipice of chaos. Rain slicked the pavement, each step reflecting the neon glow of the arena sign like a distorted mirror. Malik adjusted his jacket, the ticket pressed flat in his palm. The crowd around him buzzed with anticipation, a wave of excitement that felt almost cruel as his own pulse raced, not from joy, but dread. A hand landed firmly on his shoulder. "Step aside, sir," the officer said, voice neutral but carrying weight. Malik froze. I have a ticket," he stammered, lifting it toward the officer. The man's eyes skimmed the paper, then locked on Malik. "Not you. Wait over there." He pointed to a roped-off corner, isolating Malik as if he were invisible to the world. "What? I'm performing tonight. You can check." The officer's laugh cut him off, short and harsh. "Step aside. Now." Whispers rose around him. Phones recorded, but no one intervened. Malik's hands curled into fists. He tried to summon calm, a polite tone, anything to dissolve the tension. "I'm Malik Grant. I'm the headliner." The officer sneered. "Yeah, right. Move." A woman behind him muttered under her breath, "This isn't right." Malik's manager appeared moments later, scanning the scene. "What's going on here?" he demanded. The officer straightened, hand still firm on Malik's shoulder. "Routine check. You wait." Malik's heart sank. His ticket burned against his palm. The stage lights flickered through the open gate, life, music, applause, just beyond reach. He tried another approach. "I need to get inside. I'm performing. I can prove it." "Sir, I said wait." The officer's voice lowered, closer now, threatening. Malik felt every eye on him, every whisper, every judgment. The moment stretched, taut with humiliation and frustration. His manager tugged at his arm. "Come on, we'll sort this. Don't escalate." Malik shook his head, anger rising. "This isn't right. Not tonight. Not here." The officer leaned closer. "I said wait, or else." Time collapsed into a single heartbeat. One misstep, one flinch, and everything, the music, the audience, the career he built, could collapse in an instant. Malik inhaled, holding the rain, the lights, the whispers, the world at bay. And then the gate swung slightly, a shadow moving beyond it. Malik's breath caught. He was trapped outside, while inside, the night he'd built waited for him, unreachable. Malik's pulse thundered in his ears as the officer's hand pressed him subtly backward, toward the roped-off corner. Around him, The crowd shifted uneasily. Phones lifted, capturing the scene, faces blurred with confusion and curiosity. A man muttered, "He's just a performer, isn't he?" But no one stepped forward. "I'm telling you, I'm the main act," Malik said, keeping his voice controlled, even as frustration coiled in his chest. "I have credentials, tickets, passes, everything you need." The officer didn't flinch. "Procedures first. You wait." Malik's manager, Jalen, stepped up, jaw tight. "Hey, he's with me. You need to let him inside. He's scheduled to perform in 20 minutes. The officer's gaze flicked to Jalen. "I don't make the rules, sir. Please comply." A ripple of whispers moved through the crowd. Some murmured in disbelief, some muttered apologies or criticism under their breath. Malik could feel eyes burning into him, not in solidarity, but in cautious fascination. People wanted to look without intervening, a quiet complicity. "Look, I've been on this stage before," Malik said, leaning forward, voice sharp. "I've performed for thousands. You are stopping me from doing my job." "Sir," the officer replied, calm, deliberate, "I'm asking you to wait. That's all." Malik's fists clenched. A flash of fury surged. He felt the humiliation deep in his chest, each word the officer refused to hear scraping against his dignity. He could feel the judgment of every onlooker, some sympathetic, most indifferent. Jalen tried a different approach. "Listen, you can't block someone who's scheduled to perform. This is professional. There's identification, there's credentials, everything you need." "I'm not saying you can't perform," the officer said. "I'm saying, wait over there." His eyes lingered on Malik with a quiet, unspoken assessment. Malik's mind raced. He wanted to yell, to push past, to storm inside, but he stayed rooted. Every instinct screamed resistance, but he knew a confrontation could destroy the night entirely. The crowd's whispers became a low hum, an audience unto themselves, neither helping nor condemning. A teenager whispered loudly enough for Malik to hear, "Why is he still outside? He looks like the performer." The officer's jaw tightened. "Quiet," he snapped. Malik's hands shook. Anger, fear, humiliation, they all intertwined. One part of him wanted to break down, another wanted to confront the injustice head-on. He inhaled, attempting to center himself. He had to think strategically, not emotionally. "Jalen," Malik muttered. "This is escalating. We need another way." Jalen nodded, scanning the periphery for allies, staff, security, anyone who could mediate, but the subtle power of the officer kept them all at bay. Suddenly, Malik felt a tap on his shoulder from a uniformed arena employee. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, eyes darting nervously between Malik and the officer. "Nothing you need to know," the officer replied smoothly, pushing Malik slightly backward. Malik glanced at the stage through the open doors. The lights glimmered, instruments lined up, his audience waiting. The humiliation of standing barred from the place he had earned was suffocating. He whispered to himself, almost inaudible, "I can't let this ruin everything." From behind him, Jalen's voice rose, demanding, "We need management. Now." The officer stiffened. Backup arrived, 2 more officers moving silently into position, eyes scanning the crowd, assessing potential threats. The tension tightened like a noose, the weight of authority pressing down. Malik's stomach churned. Every second was a test of patience and nerve. Every moment, the whispers in the crowd grew louder, a symphony of judgment and anticipation. And then, over the hum of murmurs, a stagehand appeared at the doorway, peeking nervously. Malik. "They're ready for you inside," he said. The officer's eyes flicked toward the stage, then back at Malik. He smirked, almost imperceptibly, his hand still pressing firmly against Malik's shoulder. "I said wait," he murmured, voice low but threatening. Malik's heartbeat slammed in his ears. The audience, the stage, the culmination of years of work, all waited. One push, one misstep, one word wrong, and the night could collapse into chaos. The officer glanced around, confident, almost taunting. The whispers of the crowd, the distant cheer from inside, the flood of expectation. They pressed on Malik's consciousness, a heavy, suffocating weight. Malik inhaled, steadying himself. This ends tonight, but not like this. He felt Jalen's hand grip his arm. We need a plan, Jalen whispered. Malik's gaze hardened, determination sparking through humiliation. He knew the next move would define everything. Jalen's jaw was tight as he faced the officer, the glare in his eyes barely masking his frustration. You're stopping someone who is literally scheduled to perform in front of thousands, he said, voice controlled but firm. There are credentials, passes, and staff confirming his identity. You cannot just. Procedures first, the officer interrupted, cutting the words off like a blade. Sir, step back. Malik watched, fists clenched at his sides. Every second outside the gate was a strike against his dignity, a silent public humiliation. He felt the heat crawling up his neck, the ache of injustice pressing against his chest. Procedures. Jalen echoed, incredulous. He's the performer. The main act. This is not a vague suspicion. This is professional authorization. Do you understand what you're doing? The officer tilted his head, evaluating Jalen with a practiced indifference. I enforce security protocol. That's my responsibility. You comply, or there will be consequences. Malik's stomach knotted. Consequences. For me. For following my career path. For standing here with a legitimate ticket. The thought twisted inside him, anger mingled with despair. Do you realize how this looks? Jalen pressed, voice sharp. People are filming. Phones are out. This is escalating fast. One wrong move from you, and this becomes a public incident. The officer's hand tightened subtly on Malik's shoulder. I'm aware of the optics. That does not change protocol. Sir, wait. Malik's mind raced. He could feel the frustration in Jalen, the tension in the crowd, the whispers brushing against his ears like static. Some eyes held sympathy, others judgment, but all were witnesses. It's like being on stage already, but trapped outside, forced to perform humility under the spotlight of prejudice. Fine, Jalen said finally, swallowing hard, his tone measured. Let me call management. I will prove to you he belongs inside. He's performing tonight. If you continue to block him, this is on you, officially. The officer's lips curled into a thin, almost imperceptible smirk. Do what you must. But I'm following the rules. Step aside. Malik's hands shook. He wanted to snap, to push past, to scream against the injustice, but every instinct told him the officer's authority was a trap. One wrong word, one gesture, and the night, the career, everything he had built could crumble. Malik, Jalen whispered, glancing around nervously. We need to stay calm. I'll handle this. Don't escalate. Don't let him provoke you. Malik inhaled, trying to ground himself. His eyes flicked toward the stage through the open gate. Lights glimmered, crew scurried, instruments gleamed, and the audience was waiting. He could almost feel the vibrations of the bass through the floor, a cruel reminder of how close he was, and yet how far. The officer shifted slightly, gesturing to the ropes. Wait there. That's an order. Malik stepped back, but each step felt like sinking into humiliation. The whispers of the crowd grew louder. Phones lifted higher. Some murmurs were sympathetic, some resentful, some confused. Every eye, every camera, bearing witness to this small, crushing injustice. A staff member edged closer, trying to mediate. Sir, can we? The officer's gaze snapped toward her. Step back. Security is handling this. Malik exhaled slowly, the weight of helplessness pressing down. Security handling this? They are the problem. Every word from the officer dripped with the unspoken bias, the subtle authority that treated him as less than, as disposable. Jalen dialed management, a muted phone conversation carried out with quiet urgency. Malik watched the officer's expression, carefully neutral, masking a simmering sense of control. Finally, the officer ended his brief survey of the crowd, returning his full attention to Malik. You'll wait. That's all. Malik's chest tightened. He wanted to push, to yell, to break the rope and storm in, but reason overrode impulse. Not tonight. Not here. Not with this audience watching, cameras capturing. history noting every detail. Jalen glanced at him, eyes wide with concern and strategy. "Hold on," he murmured. "We're getting you in. Just stay composed. Don't give him an excuse to escalate." Malik nodded, jaw tight, hands clenching. Each tick of the clock was a dagger. He could see the stage, hear the faint vibrations of the pre-show sound checks. Every second outside was a public erasure, a microcosm of the prejudice he fought against all his life. And then, a staff member returned, whispering to Jalen urgently, "Management's on the line. They're reviewing the situation now. Hold your ground." Malik swallowed hard. The officer's grip on authority remained firm, but a crack appeared, a sliver of vulnerability in the wall of protocol he had erected. Malik exhaled, sensing the first shift in power, though the outcome remained uncertain. "This isn't over. It's just getting started." Malik followed Jalen to the edge of the roped-off area, the distant roar of the crowd pressing against him like a physical weight. Stage lights flickered through the open doors, illuminating the instruments, cables, and crew bustling in preparation. Every vibration of sound that leaked outside felt like a tease, his audience, his music, just beyond reach. "Sir, I'm telling you, you need to wait," the officer said again, hand firm on Malik's shoulder. "Procedures first." Jalen stepped forward, voice sharper this time. "Procedures. Look around you. All signs point to him being authorized. Let him inside. He has a show to perform." The officer's gaze swept the backstage area. He seemed to weigh the scene, measuring every angle. "I'm responsible for security. That is my priority. You will comply." Malik's teeth clenched. Every second outside this gate felt like a betrayal of his years of work. He could see the stage crew moving purposefully, tuning guitars, adjusting mics. The energy pulsed, mocking him, reminding him of how close he was to his life's work and yet completely blocked. A stagehand approached, hesitating. Malik. They're ready for you. The sound check, everything's lined up." The officer's hand didn't move. "Not until I say." Malik's pulse spiked. "Do you hear that? I'm the performer. You're stopping me from doing my job." The officer's smirk didn't falter. "I'm ensuring safety and protocol. Step aside." Jalen's voice rose, controlled but edged with urgency. "Safety. This is professional authorization. He is scheduled. Blocking him now is not safety, it's obstruction." The whispers of the crowd outside had grown into low murmurs. Phones lifted, faces blurred, everyone capturing the scene. Malik could feel the weight of their observation, each eye pressing judgment silently. Some were sympathetic, some shocked, most hesitant to intervene. "I don't make the rules," the officer said, calm and measured. Yet every word carried the undercurrent of authority and bias. "You will comply." Malik's stomach knotted, the frustration turning into a tight ball of anger. He wanted to explode, to storm in, to reclaim the space that was rightfully his, but every instinct warned restraint. One wrong move could ruin the night, his career, everything. Jalen dialed the venue manager again, voice low but firm. "You need to authorize him inside, now. He's the main performer. Security is obstructing his access." The officer shifted slightly, glancing at the approaching staff members who hesitated at the edge of the ropes. "I said wait. That is an order." Malik's hands clenched at his sides. Every instrument on stage, every light, every note he couldn't yet play pressed into him like a tangible ache. He swallowed hard, forcing control over the rage and humiliation. A young crew assistant stepped closer, whispering to Jalen. "We can escort him backstage if you want. They might not stop us, if we move quickly." Jalen's eyes met Malik's. "Careful. Any sudden move could escalate. We need compliance and documentation. Let me handle it." Malik exhaled slowly, nodding. Every muscle screamed rebellion, but restraint was the weapon that could save the night. He took in the stage again, the bass drum gleaming, the keyboards ready, the lights glowing with anticipation. He could almost hear the faint echo of applause from the front rows, taunting him. "Sir," the officer murmured, leaning closer, "I warned you. Wait, or there will be consequences." Malik's chest tightened, but he didn't step back. His eyes met the officer's, steady, resolute. "You don't define my worth. You don't control my life." At that moment, a security camera above the gate pivoted slowly, its lens capturing everything. The officer's hand, Malik's tense posture, Jalen's intervention, the murmuring crowd. The quiet hum of mechanical surveillance contrasted sharply with the crackling tension of human confrontation. Jalen's phone buzzed. He glanced down at the screen, eyes widening. "They're reviewing your credentials now," he whispered. "Management just approved entry. We can move in, carefully." The officer's eyes flicked toward the stage, then back to Malik, his grip firm but momentarily uncertain. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, a crack in the wall of authority he had maintained. Malik felt his pulse steady. The path forward was narrow, fraught with tension, but it existed. The backstage gate loomed ahead, the threshold between obstruction and his rightful place on stage. He inhaled deeply, bracing for the final negotiation, every sense attuned to the possibility of escalation or compliance. One careful step could reclaim the night, or shatter it entirely. "This is the moment," Malik thought. "The stage is mine, but first, I survive the gate." Malik's shoes squeaked against the wet pavement as he stepped closer to the stage entrance, still held at the edge by the officer's firm hand. Every movement was calculated, every breath deliberate. Inside, the faint hum of the sound system carried the crowd's anticipation, a living pulse he could feel but not touch. Fans nearby had started whispering. Phones lifted, capturing Malik's restrained struggle. "Isn't that Malik Grant?" a teen asked, voice tinged with awe. "He's the performer," another hissed under their breath. The officer's jaw tightened, eyes scanning the faces, calculating. He didn't move, but the subtle tension in his posture betrayed unease. Authority was still his armor, but the whispers and glances chipped at it like wind against stone. Malik met the gaze of a young girl in the crowd, maybe 12, holding a glow stick and staring with wide, curious eyes. He gave her a small nod, a signal of calm resolve. She mirrored his expression, holding the light tighter, silently rooting for him. The realization that his audience could see the injustice fueled a quiet, simmering fire in him. Jalen leaned close. "They're filming. Social media's picking it up already. People are noticing." Malik's lips pressed into a thin line. "Good. Let them see." The officer's hand remained firm, but subtle cracks in his control began to show. He barked orders to nearby staff, his voice tight, almost defensive. Malik recognized the pattern. Public exposure was destabilizing him. "I'm telling you again, I'm the performer tonight," Malik said, voice low but unwavering. "If you continue to block me, this will not stay private." The officer didn't reply. He glanced at the crowd, calculating, searching for an ally, a witness who could validate his authority. He found none. Phones hovered, onlookers whispered, and silence from the majority amplified the imbalance. Malik's hands tightened. Humiliation pressed at him, but he forced composure. The night, the performance, the audience, everything depended on him controlling the narrative, staying measured, yet visible. A fan shouted, "Let him through. He's the main act." A ripple went through the audience, some clapping, some laughing nervously, others shouting confirmation. The officer's eyes flicked from the crowd back to Malik, a micro-expression of irritation betraying the uncertainty he tried to mask. Jalen nudged him. "Management's on the line. They confirmed your credentials. You just need to wait for final clearance." Malik nodded subtly, keeping his composure. He watched the faces in the crowd, some recording, others discussing quietly. Their murmurs carried both concern and anticipation, a collective tension mirroring his own. The officer leaned slightly closer, voice lowered, almost a hiss. "I told you, sir. Wait. That's all." Malik's chest tightened. The words were the same, but now they carried less power. Public awareness had begun to tip the balance. He inhaled, exhaled, and focused on the stage again. Instruments gleamed, lights flickered, crew members moved, all while he remained blocked, a living symbol of the injustice. A nearby teenager pointed at the cameras filming Malik. "This is going viral," she whispered. Malik allowed himself a thin, controlled smile. Let it, he said softly. Let the world see. Jalen glanced at him, tension etched into his features. This could escalate fast. You ready to move on my signal? Malik nodded. Every muscle coiled with restraint and anticipation. The murmurs of the crowd, the subtle clatter of instruments, the distant roar of the audience, all pressed against him. One misstep could unravel everything, but patience and strategy had become his weapons. The officer's gaze swept the crowd again, hands adjusting his belt, signaling authority. Yet the murmurs had grown, collective observation a tangible force. He realized, finally, that the isolation and control he wielded over Malik were slipping under public scrutiny. Malik's jaw tightened. Every eye here counts. Every phone records. Every whisper carries my story. A stagehand finally approached, nervously gesturing toward the doorway. Malik, everything's ready. Just need clearance. The officer's eyes narrowed, the grip on Malik's shoulder lingering, but tension now flickered in his posture. Malik's heart pounded as he sensed the fragile balance. Any second, the path forward could open or the confrontation could erupt. The murmurs of the crowd swelled, a soft tide pressing against the officer's authority, as Malik held himself poised at the threshold. The world watched. One move. One signal. The night is still mine, but only if I navigate this gate. Malik's chest tightened as he stood at the edge of the gate, Jalen beside him, the murmurs of the crowd pressing in like an invisible force. Every eye, every phone, every whisper had become a witness to the officer's authority, and to its fracture. The officer's hand remained on Malik's shoulder, but subtle tension betrayed his control. Sir, he said, voice low and deliberate, wait. I warned you. Malik's jaw tightened. I've waited. The world can see what's happening. You're stopping a performer from doing his job. That's not procedure, that's bias. The officer stiffened. Bias. I follow protocol. You have no proof of anything. Step aside. Jalen stepped forward, voice firm, cutting through the growing hum of the audience outside. We have proof. Credentials. Passes. Management confirmation. You're obstructing his performance. This is official. Stop hiding behind authority. Malik's pulse raced. He felt the tension, the anger, the humiliation, but also a rising clarity. The crowd's murmurs, the flashing phones, the subtle shifts in staff all added weight to his side. The power dynamic had begun to tilt. Sir, I said wait. The officer barked, voice rising, revealing his unease. Malik leaned slightly forward. You're on camera. Security cameras. Everyone recording. This is exposure. Do you want to escalate this in front of the world? The officer's eyes flicked to the overhead camera, then back at Malik. A momentary hesitation. Malik noticed the shift. Public scrutiny was forcing cracks in the armor of authority. Jalen dialed the venue's legal and security office again, speaking quietly but firmly. We have a situation that requires immediate resolution. Malik Grant is the headliner. Any further obstruction will be documented as misconduct. Security needs to comply. The officer glanced at the crowd, the cameras, the murmuring spectators. His hand on Malik's shoulder loosened slightly. This is procedures, he began, then paused. The taut line of control wavered. Malik exhaled slowly, keeping his voice even. Procedures are not excuses for bias. Not tonight. Not here. From behind the ropes, a stagehand stepped forward, holding a small tablet. Management confirmed his clearance, the stagehand said. He's authorized to enter. Please let him through. The officer's lips pressed into a thin line. He glanced at the camera again, then back to Malik. His authority, once absolute, now depended on public perception. The whispers had grown louder. Phones lifted higher. Every second of obstruction was visible. Malik's gaze was steady, unflinching. You have a choice. Comply or escalate. This is being documented. A subtle murmur rose from the audience outside. Finally, he belongs inside, a fan exclaimed. The collective attention intensified the officer's discomfort. The officer shifted slightly, weighing options. He could maintain the confrontation and risk exposure, or step back and allow the rightful path. Finally, a tight nod, almost imperceptible. His hand retreated from Malik's shoulder. Jalen gestured toward the backstage gate. Go. Carefully. Malik stepped forward, each movement deliberate, claiming the threshold he had been denied. The instruments, lights, crew, they were his domain, his reality, now accessible after the tense limbo. Once inside, Malik paused briefly, surveying the backstage. Crew members gave subtle nods, acknowledging his arrival without words. The officer remained outside, his posture stiff, aware that the confrontation had been recorded, witnessed, and would ripple beyond this night. Malik's hands unclenched slowly, the tension easing, but not completely. Humiliation had not disappeared. Anger had not fully dissipated. Yet clarity replaced fear. He had survived, not by brute force, but by patience, strategy, and the subtle weight of exposure. Jalen whispered, "The cameras, the social media feeds. This is going to blow up." Everyone saw what happened. Malik nodded. "Good. Let it be known. Not just about me, but about how easily authority can be abused when unchecked." The officer's face appeared momentarily at the gate, rigid, composed, yet the faint flicker of unease betrayed the realization of accountability. Malik didn't look at him. His focus was on the stage, the crew, the instruments, the lights, the life he had fought for, finally within reach. A crew member tapped Malik's shoulder. "Everything's ready. Audience is waiting. Sound check's done. You're good to go." Malik's pulse steadied. The roar of the crowd, distant but palpable, was the reward for persistence. His voice could rise now, his hands could play, his presence could command the stage. But the night carried the weight of the confrontation, a reminder of systemic bias, human error, and the subtle, pervasive nature of injustice. Malik took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the stage under his feet. Every note, every word, every movement would carry the story, not just of music, but of resistance, exposure, and the assertion of rightful presence against systemic obstruction. He looked at Jalen. "Let's do this. The night is mine, but the lesson is bigger than the applause." Malik's first chord echoed through the arena, rich and full, vibrating across the packed venue. The crowd erupted, cheers spilling over in waves, but Malik's mind remained half on the music, half on the confrontation just outside. The officer's obstruction had not gone unnoticed. Every phone, every whisper, every live clip had already begun to ripple through the digital world. Jalen leaned close, whispering as Malik adjusted the microphone. "It's trending. Clips are everywhere. Social media is blowing up. Everyone's talking about the officer blocking you." Malik exhaled, strumming a few tentative notes. "Good. Let them see. Not just the music, but the injustice." Back outside, the officer stood rigid, arms crossed, phone buzzing with alerts. Screens showed videos from multiple angles, phones of audience members, security cameras, backstage feeds. The video had gone viral in minutes. The officer scrolled through comments, criticism growing with every view. Every clip documented his overreach, every frame caught his refusal to acknowledge Malik's credentials. Inside, Malik's performance soared. Lyrics filled the air, his voice carrying the tension, the pain, the triumph. Audience members waved glow sticks, phones recording, fans chanting his name. Each note, each beat, was both an artistic act and a statement. He would not be silenced. Backstage, Jalen monitored incoming social media posts. Tweets, Instagram clips, live streams. Comments ranged from outrage to disbelief. How can someone block the performer from entering the stage? One post read, "This is outrageous. Security overreach at its worst." News outlets had already picked up the story. Headlines flashed on screens: concert headliner blocked by security officer, social media erupts, performer denied stage access, viral video sparks backlash, authority versus art, viral incident highlights bias in security protocols. Malik's pulse quickened. The confrontation had extended beyond the venue. The officer's authority, once unquestioned, was now publicly scrutinized, debated, and criticized. Every moment of obstruction had been captured, The exposure was total. One journalist called the venue, asking for statements from management and security. The line of questioning was firm, piercing, demanding accountability. Management, once hesitant, now issued a statement. Malik Grant's credentials had been verified, and the incident was under immediate review. The officer's expression tightened as he listened to incoming coverage. Private messages from colleagues, emails, alerts, and social media mentions converged, all reflecting a simple truth: his actions had consequences. The ripple of exposure was spreading, unstoppable. Malik's set continued, lyrics echoing themes of perseverance, resistance, and assertion of self-worth. Each song layered emotion with narrative. The crowd could feel his story, his confrontation, his victory in the small details. Every fan who had seen the viral video before attending now connected directly with his performance, a living testimony of resilience. A backstage camera captured Malik's calm but controlled expressions, juxtaposed with flashes of his earlier confrontation. When clips of his performance merged with footage of the officer blocking him, the contrast was stark. One man wielding authority, another asserting rightful presence through talent and composure. The online community reacted immediately, amplifying the narrative. Inside, the energy was electric. Malik moved through each song with precision, balancing artistry and emotional weight. Jalen kept glancing at the feeds, noting the growing commentary, the mounting calls for accountability, the public pressure building against the officer. Finally, Malik paused mid-performance, glancing out toward the stage entrance. The officer was still visible in security monitors, rigid and isolated. Phones pointed at him, tweets firing across platforms, comments dissecting his conduct, all converging into an undeniable tide of public scrutiny. Malik addressed the crowd quietly, voice steady. "This song, it's for all of us who've ever been blocked, overlooked, or judged unfairly. Sometimes the fight is just getting the door open." The applause was deafening, an affirmation of both music and resilience. Every viewer online, every phone in the audience, amplified the exposure, sending the officer's actions across networks, media outlets, and public discourse. Back outside, the officer finally lowered his gaze, tension visible in his posture. The ripple had reached him fully. Authority, once a weapon, was now a spotlight revealing bias and overreach. His colleagues, unaware at first, were now watching, reacting, and documenting. Malik's heart settled slightly. The performance was more than art, it was testimony. The officer's obstruction, once private and silent, had become a public reckoning. Each chord, each note, each fan reaction was part of the poetic justice unfolding. Jalen exhaled softly, watching Malik command the stage and the narrative simultaneously. This is bigger than the concert," he said. Malik nodded, strumming the final chord. The crowd's roar blended with the quiet hum of cameras and phones capturing every angle, every moment. The ripple had become a wave, unstoppable, and the officer's influence was diminishing under its weight. This is the exposure. The accountability. The confrontation made visible. The ripple becomes justice. Malik stood center stage, the bright lights washing over him, illuminating every instrument, every cable, every meticulously arranged piece of the set. The roar of the audience hit like a wave, a tidal affirmation of his presence, his resilience, and the night he had fought to reclaim. Jalen leaned just offstage, nodding subtly. "They're all watching, Malik. Every eye, every camera, every feed. Tonight, they're seeing it all." Malik inhaled, letting the tension and adrenaline intertwine. Each chord he struck carried a dual meaning: musical expression and a declaration of victory over obstruction. The crowd erupted again, cheers punctuating the opening notes, and he felt the energy surge through him, through the audience, through the stage itself. The lyrics carried weight. Each verse was imbued with his experience outside the gate: the scrutiny, the whispers, the subtle humiliation, the persistence. Fans who had followed the viral clips understood the narrative. Each word resonated like a quiet exclamation, a shared recognition of injustice transformed into art. Backstage monitors displayed flashes of the officer's misstep, the tense gestures, the hesitant posture, the grip loosening. Staff exchanged subtle nods, the shift in authority visible in every frame. The ripple of public exposure had not only reached social media but had infiltrated the very walls of the venue, reinforcing the correctness of Malik's persistence. Midway through his set, Malik paused briefly, glancing toward the edge of the stage where the audience's energy surged. "This one's for everyone who's been told they don't belong," he said, voice steady, resonant. "For every time someone tried to block you, to silence you, to erase your presence. You belong. Always." The applause and cheers were deafening, waves of affirmation washing over him. Phones lifted, live streams broadcasting every moment. His performance had become not only music but testimony, a declaration against bias, a real-time narrative of triumph over systemic obstruction. Jalen leaned closer, whispering as Malik prepared for the next song. "Management just emailed. Internal response is underway. Officers' conduct is under review. Social media is exploding with support. People are rallying behind you." Malik exhaled slowly. Victory was partial, it wasn't personal revenge, it was accountability, exposure, and justice. Yet, every note he played, every chord, carried the emotional residue of confrontation, of humiliation endured, of patience tested. The officer's presence outside the venue was now a quiet, rigid shadow. Rumors circulated backstage that colleagues had begun internal discussions, reports filed, accountability demanded. The ripple had transformed into a wave, sweeping away the assumption that unchecked authority could persist unchallenged. Malik moved through the final songs with precision and passion, letting the music carry both relief and the lingering weight of the ordeal. Each lyric, each movement, each gesture was a testament to resilience, the silent acknowledgement of struggle transformed into artistry. After the final note, Malik lowered the microphone, the arena reverberating with applause. Fans shouted, cheered, and waved glow sticks, many lifting phones to record the final moments, capturing the triumph as evidence of the journey from obstruction to performance. Jalen approached, clapping quietly, voice low but filled with pride. "You turned the narrative into the night. Every obstruction, every challenge, every moment, it all became part of the performance." Malik nodded, voice quiet as he addressed the crowd one last time. "Tonight isn't just about music. It's about persistence, about facing barriers, about standing your ground when authority is misused. This stage is for all of us who fight to be seen, to be heard, and to be treated fairly." The audience erupted, the roar of approval merging with the rhythm of victory. Malik felt a profound sense of catharsis. The night had been reclaimed not through confrontation, but through patience, strategic action, and the undeniable force of truth. Backstage, staff and management exchanged glances. The internal investigation was underway, social media reactions were growing, and the officer's authority had been publicly challenged and scrutinized. Malik's performance had amplified the impact of exposure, making the obstruction and bias visible to thousands in real time. Malik finally exhaled fully, letting the tension drain. Every beat, every note, every lyric had carried the weight of injustice, and now the performance had become testimony, a living record of resilience and accountability. As he stepped off stage, Jalen placed a hand on his shoulder. The show went on. And so did the truth. Every eye watching, every camera capturing, it's all documented. Malik nodded, heart steady but still carrying the echo of confrontation. The stage had been reclaimed, the audience witnessed, the officer exposed. The ripple of justice had transformed into waves, and accountability was in motion. The performance had survived, the truth had survived, and so had he.